it's Carla from Casey Creates. I've been wanting to get on and show you how I create what I call a prayer box. So I'm going to do that right now. If you'd like to see how I create one, then you'll want to watch. This is a box I've already shown that I created by decoupaging vintage kind of shabby chic papers. And these were made from my scraps. I just tore them and glued them on. I want to show you different options you can use for creating a prayer box. This was a cornmeal box, and I just cut it in half. Let me move this so you can see. And what happens when you cut it in half is you can take the lid and put it back on as the lid of the prayer box, but the box will then be a little shorter, which is probably better for being able to reach in and out. And if you wanted, you could gesso, which is a thick white paint that you can cover it with, or you could just take some white acrylic paint and paint over it just to make sure that what's underneath doesn't show through your paper if you're using a thinner paper. So that's an option for recycling some of the things we use. And this is just the same thing. It's a oatmeal box, and what I did was I put a piece of masking tape to kind of get a straight line all the way around, and then you just take a serrated knife and saw it apart. So this is a way you could end up with two boxes. Another thing you can use that I really like to use are old cell phone boxes. These are nice and sturdy, and they're made so the lid comes off easily. This is another one my sister saved for me. Anyway, this one, the lid's a little more snug. But these are also good options to make prayer boxes with. You can buy your boxes too. This is one that's in the shape of a book, but inside it sort of looks like a jewelry box. The pieces are apart right now, but so you can buy these pretty cheap. This one was $3.99, the craft store. This one's made of balsa wood, that really lightweight wood. I've got some of my Mori treasures in there that I created out of clay right now, but this is another option for using as a prayer box. And rather than getting into all of the details of decorating, I just really want you to be able to create one to use. So I'm going to do a short tutorial on how to create a prayer box, and I'm going to go ahead and use, let's see, I think I'll just cover this cell phone box. So what I've done is I've picked out papers that I think will kind of match in color and somewhat of a shabby chic theme, vintage, Victorian. Those are all the themes that I like. So this one is sort of a toile pattern with some mauves and pinks and browns and greens. This one is sort of a sweet little tea party look, I think. Let me get a good check at that. Yeah, and it's got some roses, and then this is some of the vintage kind of rose pattern. And to keep it from being too time consuming, last time I actually decoupaged up here, and then I realized I don't really need to because the lid will cover that. So what you do is you just tear random pieces, and to glue down the actual pieces I don't use Mod Podge. I just use regular Elmer's or tacky glue. If I can get it to start coming out, there we go. And what I like to do is cover up the seam of the box, and then once it's dry, I'll take a matte knife and seal it, and that makes a cleaner line. And the tacky glue holds on fast, so that's why I like to decoupage with the tacky glue and then go over it. And if you just really smooth it well, because you don't want any air bubbles to get trapped, And then if you really want to be fussy, you can tear it in shapes that are like heart-shaped or something fun. And you don't have to put a whole lot of thought into where you're putting it. You just don't want to layer it too much. And if it gets a little bulky, you can trim that off later. Like for instance, here I have a definite fold on the bottom. I'm going to just trim that off later. And then I'll tear some of this one. And as I get further along, I'll chat with you a little bit more about the whole reasoning behind a prayer box and a couple different ways you can use it. And I want you to see that you can see the torn line. I really like that, how it kind of breaks up the space and says this is a collage. So I kind of like to show the white paper underneath. So there's the use of all three papers that I'm going to use on this actual box. So I'm going to finish covering it with my torn pieces. I still have to do the lid. You can see it's kind of messy, but all that will be covered up. And I'll do the sides. And remember, I'm covering the seam. And I'll come back when it's all covered and show you the next step. Okay, so I finished covering it with all of the craft paper. And I also used a ribbon that my sister gave me that I love. It's pink and tan gingham. And that's just to show how I love pattern mixing. Kind of like that country shabby chic look, which I think gives it that. Now I'm going to decorate the lid with just some embellishments that I've got around. It's a great way to use up scraps too. I'm starting to run out of these little rose buds. I tea stained them because I want them to have more of a vintage look. They're real bright orangey pink colors, which are nice, but I'm going to go ahead. I muted mine down a little, as I tend to do. And then I made a double bow. I have some, where's my ivory? I have some of the ivory pearls that I'll probably glue on. Oh, those were white. These are the ivory. These little metal pieces came. This one's plastic. I'm not into the plastic, so I'm probably not going to use those. And then I have this little heart with music notes that I'll probably, it'll find its way onto the lid somehow. The embellishments are all about what you find beautiful and draws you to it. Now I have a sweet friend, Wendy, over at Winderpane, and she and her friend Linda, well, she's my friend too, they always like to have, I made prayer boxes for both of them, and they like to work a butterfly somewhere into the theme, and I thought that was a really neat idea. It symbolizes new life and new creation, so I decided to cut out a butterfly, and it's going to find its way onto the lid of mine also. So I'm going to work on embellishing it, and I'll show you what I've got in just a few minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have completed decorating my prayer box. Now in the beginning, when I collaged over the entire box, I told you that I would take a mat knife and go around the edge, and that's what I did. You see the little blade, it was covered over the seam, so I had to take it and slice around to open up the seam and then lift the lid off. Now the lid comes off, but there was a little bit of a ragged edge, so that's why I added the little lace in the middle. It makes a pretty decorative element, but it's also there to camouflage some of that ragged edge. But here it is, the lid is where I worked in the metal plate and the antique paper roses that I tea stained, and then there's some strung pearls. There's where I worked in the little butterfly, And there's where I worked in the paper heart with the musical notes. And then I've got some ivory little pearlized beads. And I think it all tied together nicely, though it's fussy. It was really fun. And this is it completed. I've got to go around now and do some cleanup. I see some glue strings and things. But when you lift the lid, because this is a recycled cell phone box, it had some of that bright red, so I covered some of the edge with tan paper. And then the reason I created it, the prayer box, is so that you can write your prayer requests down and keep them in this box and pray over them until you see God answer the prayer. And then once it's answered, you can write the date and then on the back, or even how God may have answered that prayer, and put it at the bottom, and then just keep praying over each prayer request that you stash in the prayer box. Hopefully, the idea is the beauty of the box will draw you to it each day. Maybe you can even keep it at your bedside table or somewhere to remind you to open it and read over the prayers every day. Now I created this pink and blue one, which are colors I don't normally use, but I kind of got carried away with this one too. So there's like lots of flowers and lace and pearls and bows. And again, just evidence of how much fun I have creating with these kind of decorations. I hope if you create one, you'll decorate it to your taste. I think this is a great project to use for maybe a craft night, for ladies get-togethers, or if you work with children or groups of children, you can teach them to recycle and reuse by bringing in an old cell phone box they may have at home, or an oatmeal box that has a lid that you cut down shorter. And these can be treasure boxes, they can be jewelry boxes, they can be all kinds of things. So maybe you'll give it a try just by yourself or with a group to bring community together. It was fun. I'm looking forward to creating more things on my channel here at Casey Creates. I hope you'll come back and visit me here again. I'll look forward to creating something new. Have a good day.